Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NoSilicast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever-so-slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, December 7th, 2025, and this is show number 1074. Well, I have to tell you, Steve and I have had quite the week. We just had our entire house recarpeted, and holy cow, was that a lot of work. It's kind of like moving, but not. I remember I talked to the sales guy, Chris, about the process. How does it all work? How do you move things? How does it work? And one of the things he said will always stick with me. He says, don't worry, it's going to be much worse than you think. And he was right. Now, while it's tempting to give you all of the details of things like putting 2 bookcases worth of books and photo albums in our bathtub, instead, I'm going to try to talk about the tech angles to the project after giving you a little bit of the background. Now, I gotta say, I'm always amazed by people who can do things that I can't even begin to understand how to do. 3 guys in 3 days moved every bit of furniture from 4 bedrooms, a living room, a dining room, and a family room into each of the other rooms. You know, like a giant version of that kids game, the one with the 15 plastic squares moving around and 1 empty square. That's what this whole process was like. They tore out the old carpeting, tore out the old padding, pulled up all the wood tacking boards with scary giant staples, scraped the glue off the floor, vacuumed to get up all the scary staples, then measured and cut new padding and carpet. Through what looked to me like, witchcraft, they stretched the carpeting to fit tightly into every single corner. And I mean perfectly. I am super nitpicky, and I haven't found a single thing they missed. Nothing is out of place. It is perfect. And then they vacuumed again before they left. And again, they did this all in 3 days. Now, the hard job for us was to stay ahead of them, emptying everything but furniture out of the rooms one at a time, and then when they were done for the day, shuffling everything back into the previously emptied rooms and emptying new rooms. Now, you'd think we could do some of that maybe while they were working during the day, but we tend to get trapped on one side of the house or upstairs when they were doing the stairwell, or a room we needed to get into was halfway done. It was exhausting, and my back may never be the same. Now, I chose to have my studio/den done on the first day because I wanted as much time as possible to put it back together. The first thing I did was crawl under my desk and take a photo of the back of my UPS and work up a hand drawing of how everything was connected using Notability on my iPad. Now, that sounds easy, but ergonomically, it was a nightmare. So picture this. I'm lying face down under my desk, my arms just clearing the back panel of the desk, and I'm trying to draw on an iPad while laying face down, and I'm trying to shine a light on the UPS at the same time. I felt like I was doing one of Marimba's crazy Pilates exercises on Fitness Plus. You know, now that I think about it, we do this exercise where you lay down on your chest and you have to lift your arms up and your legs up at the same time. Maybe that's why I was able to do this exercise at 67 years old. Not exercise, but this work. Anyway, I drew this diagram of the UPS because I figured when I put it together the last time, I'd put some thought into how I had set it up originally. Why figure all that out again? Why not trust past Allison? Now, uninterruptible power supplies have 2 sides to them. The surge protector only side and the battery plus surge protection sides. I wanted to document my decisions on what devices were battery worthy. Those devices were my ProDisplay XDR, CalDigit Thunderbolt dock, OWC Thunderbolt hub, and my Logitech subwoofer. At this point, the alert amongst you might be thinking, wait a minute, don't Allison and Steve have a whole home battery? Why would they need to have a UPS battery as well? I'm glad you asked. I think it comes down to trust. I like a belt and suspenders on equipment this expensive and critical to my happiness. Also, when the power goes out and our Tesla Powerwall batteries kick in, there's this ever so slight flicker of the lights. During that slight hiccup, I can hear my UPS kick on briefly, so I worry there might be enough surge to cause some damage during that flip over. It's also nice to hear that sound because otherwise we wouldn't know that our neighbors have lost power and be able to offer them refrigerator space and a cup of internet. We have one really great neighbor named Rick, and what we let him do is throw the power cable from his refrigerator out his window and in our window into the kitchen, and that way he can keep his refrigerator going, and then he steals our internet. It's perfect. Anyway, so I got this documented, and it was time to disassemble all of my studio equipment. Steve and I gently removed the ProDisplay XDR from its Visa mount and carefully took down the boom arm holding the Heil PR40 mic. We wrapped them both in pillows and blankets to stay protected and cozy for the day over in Steve's den. Now, the rest of my equipment got, thrown into boxes. Everything else is pretty indestructible, I guess is the word. Now, think about all of the ancillary electronic gems you have in your computer area. I had tons of mics and cables and hubs and switches. All of that had to be packed up, ready to go out of my closet. I put a photo in the show notes of my studio, empty except for my desk, which they figured was easier to work around than try to get it through the tight doorway. You can see the little shelf that sits on the wall behind me, still sporting the 20-year balloon Steve got me for the big anniversary. If you've ever been to the live show, you know what I'm talking about. When it came time to reassemble my room, it was pretty easy to put the mic and display back on their mounts. Plugging everything back into the UPS was easy as well because of my handy-dandy diagram I'd made on the iPad. It was also easier because my desk was pulled away from the wall so I could crawl around back there without doing that Pilates move. But the main reason it was easier was that Kepler the good boy was very attentive to my work. He crawled under the desk and assisted me in getting everything plugged into the proper positions on the UPS. When it came time to connect all of my devices into my Mac, I remembered that I diagrammed that too back when I added the OWC Thunderbolt 4 hub to the mix. Using draw.io, also known as diagrams.net, I downloaded images of each of my devices, dragged them into the diagram, and then drew interconnect lines so I could reproduce my setup in the future. Unfortunately, I didn't add quite enough detail to the diagram way back then. The tricky part is not just plugging in USB-shaped cables into USB-shaped holes. For example, while the Elgato Wave XLR mic interface can use a USB-C cable from the Thunderbolt hub, that same USB-C cable can't be used for any of the other devices I plug into the Thunderbolt hub. One of the hardest parts to get right was connecting the CalDigit dock to the OWC hub. The problem is that each of them has one Thunderbolt port that's identified with a little computer symbol on it. I never documented which devices go into each of those ports. Now, obviously, neither of those ports gets to connect to my computer directly because this whole mess is to be able to live the one-cable lifestyle on my MacBook Pro, and they can't both go in there. I thought for a while that maybe one Thunderbolt cable went between the two computer Thunderbolt ports, but that was wrong too. I figured out it was incorrectly connected when my mic and headphones plugged into the Wave XLR weren't even recognized by my system. I broke out draw.io again with the diagram, studied the problem, fixed it, and then edited the diagram a whole bunch to make it much more specific for next time. You may notice that I had to flip the OWC Thunderbolt 4 hub upside down in order to get the cables visible into the right places and not have just a big tangled mess of fake wires on my diagram. All right, I have a super old set of bookshelf Logitech speakers that connect to a subwoofer. When setting those up, I got them left, right, reversed, of course, but eventually got that sorted. While I followed my careful diagram to plug the subwoofer into the UPS, I discovered that I didn't connect it to the bookshelf speakers, so it wasn't yet functioning. Not a big deal, but just one more thing to figure out and add to my diagram for future me. After I got my studio rebuilt, I stayed up late removing every single piece of glassware and china out of the china cabinet in the dining room, where I would instruct the workers to start first thing the next morning. My plan was that while they worked on the dining room, I would disassemble Lindsay's old room, which is where the real network of the house lives. I would also tell them that my studio was not to have anything moved into it because I didn't want them flinging furniture around anywhere near that Pro Display XDR. Steve got up at 5 a.m. and he removed all of his electronics equipment from his den. He doesn't diagram anything, and yet he was able to get everything plugged in correctly. It might have taken him a while, but he didn't look at a diagram at all, and that kind of made me mad. Anyway, he had to unplug his Mac Studio, his studio display, his LG 5K display, and his mic on a boom arm, so he was ready for them to remove all of his furniture by the time they arrived. The dining room and Steve's den would be enough to entertain them for a few hours till I could get Lindsay's room disassembled. However, the next morning, while I was downstairs talking to one of the three guys about my carefully thought-out master plan for the day, another guy ran upstairs and started disassembling Lindsay's room, moving things into my studio. By the time I caught on to what was happening, they'd actually flipped some of the furniture in my studio upside down on top of the bed. To suggest I freaked out is to dramatically understate the situation. I told them they were forbidden to go into my studio and that everything had to go into our bedroom. They whined because it was actually Steve's den and Lindsay's bedroom that would both end up in our bedroom, but they succeeded. We helped them a little bit, but they got it done. All right, so as the guys started tearing down the dining room and Steve's room, I was in a race against time to get Lindsay's room disassembled. Her room hosts the following: a Synology, an OWC RAID drive attached to the Synology, a Mac Mini with an elderly but fully functional 27-inch cinema display, the Gateway Eero router, a 16-port Ethernet switch, a Hue hub, a Eufy Home hub, a Flick hub, and the Ring hub for our alarm system. As I've already mentioned, it's very important to document how things are plugged in before disassembling. I took a photo of the complete and utter rat's nest of cables going to the back of the cabinet, this time mostly for the comedy. But seriously, the other thing I did was draw yet another diagram of the UPS managing all of those devices. In that case, the Ring, Synology, Ethernet switch, RAID array, Mac Mini, and the Eero router all made the cut for the side with the battery and surge protection. When it came time to plug everything back in, again, Kepler the good dog was even more helpful. The poor thing had been banished to the backyard for most of each day, so when we let him back in, he felt that he really needed to up his supervisory game. I remember at one point I was running Ethernet cables into the switch, and he rolled on his back between me and the switch, looked up at it from underneath, and blocked my arm from getting past my knee to the switch. It was really handy. Because all of this wasn't stressful enough, I decided to upgrade our network during the recarpeting adventure. I think you'll agree it was actually good timing when I tell you how this happened. A few weeks ago, we were out visiting Kyle and Nikki and their kids, our Houston grandkids. Our good friends David Roth and his wife Jennifer also live in Houston, so we made time to meet up with them for lunch. You've heard me talk about David a million times. Anyway, we were all nerding out during lunch, as one does, and David told us that he'd recently swapped out his entire network with Ubiquiti equipment. Now, if you haven't heard of Ubiquiti, I like to describe it as networking equipment for people who secretly wish they were system admins. From what I understand, the equipment is rock solid, and the software gives you all kinds of fun controls and graphical ways of viewing and controlling your network. It's also pretty pricey, but everyone who's gone down this path is very enthusiastic about how great it is. Our good friend Pat Dengler's another convert. Now, I knew that David had previously installed all Eero Pro 7s in his house, so when he was done gushing about how much fun it was to play with Ubiquiti, I kind of idly asked him, what did he do with all of those Eeros? I remembered that they were Eero Pro 7s, which are top-of-the-line ones that I'd been too cheap to buy when I replaced all of mine with Eero Pro 6Es. David explained that the 7 Pros were just sitting on a shelf. And then he said the most beautiful words he's ever said to me. He said, "Do you want them?" Seriously. And he refused any money for them. He even offered to ship them. Well, to have Jennifer ship them. Anyway, the Eero Pro 7s have come down a bit in price since I first looked at them, but this is $1,000 worth of network equipment that he gave us. $1,000 worth. We immediately managed to cram all 4 of them into our luggage for the trip home. I think we left some shirts and pants and shoes at home to make sure that those came back with us. So now back to the carpeting story. Disassembling Lindsay's room meant unplugging that Gateway Eero anyway, taking down our precious network, so I figured that was a perfect time to swap in the Eero Pro 7. Eero makes this so easy. You tap on Add a New Device, and one of the options is to replace an existing Eero. It tells you to unplug the old one, plug in the new one, and hit Next. At that point, it looks for the new Eero, and when it finds it, you're done. But it didn't find the new one. I tried a couple of times, and then I looked at the instructions, and I broke down and typed in the serial number of the new Eero like an animal. And then I saw terrible words in the app and circled in red. It said, "This Eero device is already registered. Please have the previous owner remove this Eero from their network." Well, that's a fine kettle of fish. I texted David a screenshot of what I was seeing with no explanation, and in exactly 3 minutes, he wrote back the one word, "Done." How's that for customer service? I tapped on Add, and this time the Eero app immediately found the new Eero Pro 7, and all of my devices were connected as they should be. I didn't have to do anything to reconfigure the new Gateway Eero. I couldn't have been happier, well, except for that one egregious error that David made, of course. As we disassembled and reassembled each room, we replaced 3 more Eero Pro 6Es with Pro 7s with no trouble at all. This really is a testament to how good the software is from Eero. I mean, it's no Ubiquiti, but it's the right tool for us. And one of the easier tasks during this project was emptying our DVDs from their cabinet into boxes. Even that had a tech angle. Our DVD cabinet is 7 shelves tall. There are shelves in both doors and the main part of the cabinet. The center portion has a vertical piece separating the left and right sides. The problem to be solved was how to get the nearly 300 DVDs back into the cabinet afterwards with the same basic structure that we have now. For example, we know to look in the bottom rows for Christmas movies. Series like Pirates of the Caribbean and the Die Hard movies, which are also Christmas movies, are above that. Steve's icky movies, like Apocalypse Now, District 9, and Predator, those are all over on the right-hand side. We've got our James Bond collection below that. The top row is all Marvel movies, which we both like. My sappy movies like Driving Miss Daisy and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days are on the upper left, and Pixar and Star Trek are below that. I wonder how many of you would think of the solution we came up with. I decided to view it as a spreadsheet, of course. Cabinet is 7 rows tall, and it's 4 columns wide. All we had to do was pull out the top left section of DVDs, drop them as a stack into a box, slap a piece of blue tape on top, and label it R1C1. Grab the next one across and label it R1C2. Rinse and repeat until we got to R7C4. I have to tell you, it worked perfectly. And, this is what happens when you put 2 engineering brains together. You come up with great solutions like this. Now, the bottom line is that having new carpeting is awesome, and it really doesn't take all that long to get it done. The price hadn't even gone up that much since the last time we did this 15 or so years ago, which was surprising. Unsurprisingly, my back is not as young as it was 15 years ago. I've spoken at length about how helpful Kepler the good dog was during this strenuous adventure, but what about Ada and Grace? Turns out cats aren't nearly as helpful as you might think. Ada wasn't bad. She mostly performed inspections, like, crawling into the china cabinet to make sure I'd removed all of the bud vases. But Grace merely assumed that all efforts were to make her cozy sleeping spots wherever she wanted to be. She perched sleepily on top of loads of blankets, pillows, and comforters, and I gotta tell you, she couldn't have been happier. She did not raise a single toe to help. Now I'll close by saying that our new carpet is yummy and soft and squishy. Steve may have captured a video of me doing a carpet angel to illustrate how happy I am with the new carpet. You can see that in the show notes. So then I started thinking, where does that darn subwoofer plug in? I crawled under my desk and everything was plugged in perfectly. Turned out the volume had been turned down. Do you ever do some repeated operation on your Mac that's not hard, but you find it really annoying? If you can't think of one, I'll go first. When I'm done working on my Mac at my desk, I like to put my laptop to sleep to save energy. I use a MacBook Pro connected to the 32-inch Pro Display XDR I've been talking about all this time, and I keep the brightness cranked up to the max. So leaving it on any longer than necessary is a huge waste of electricity. I know, our power comes from the sun and it goes into the batteries, and I'm not burning fossil fuels most of the time, but I still hate to waste electricity. Even though I have my MacBook Pro set to go to sleep when I'm not messing around on it, I find it sometimes doesn't automatically go to sleep. So here's the scenario. I've been toiling away writing a long blog post for your education or entertainment, and Kepler has suggested that I'm late taking him for his afternoon walk. Never mind that he's already been walked 4 miles in the morning. The afternoon walk is where I let him goof around, sniffing anything he wants, taking 45 minutes or so to walk about 2/3 of a mile. Our vet calls this a sniffari. All right, so it's afternoon, and he's been bothering me to go out. I stand up, push in my chair, and I start to walk away from the desk when I realize I haven't yet put the Mac to sleep. I have to awkwardly reach around to the magic trackpad and drag the cursor all the way up to the upper left to tap on the Apple logo. I know, this sounds like a struggle, and it really is, especially if the cursor was left over on the 14-inch MacBook Pro screen. I could potentially be dragging this cursor close to 4 feet. Now, still awkwardly at an angle on the trackpad, I have to drag down to sleep and then let go. Now, let's take this annoyance up a notch. It's not uncommon that I forget to put my Mac to sleep and only notice that bright screen still blazing away as I'm walking past my studio on my way to go to bed. If this happens, as soon as I walk into my room, the hue light sensor notices my presence and turns on the lights. So now I have to do the awkward trackpad dance and ask the S-Lady to turn the lights off in my studio again. To be fair, she's often good at this, so it's not terrible, but it's one more thing to do. After years of struggling with this incredible hardship, I solved the problem. My solution was to create a Keyboard Maestro macro and add it to my Stream Deck to give me a single button push to put the Mac to sleep. If you haven't played with Keyboard Maestro before, it's a terrific automation tool from keyboardmaestro.com. The interface is a bit intimidating, but my little sleep macro was incredibly simple. I added a new macro using the plus button in the bottom left, and I named it Sleep. I chose to use a hotkey as the trigger, and I set it to Control, Shift, Command S. I use the plus sign that's under the right-hand pane to add a single action. This pops up a long list of built-in actions. Rather than scroll around, I typed the word sleep into the search pane at the top of the list of actions. I was rewarded with an action called Put Computer to Sleep. That sounded like exactly what I was looking for. Believe it or not, that's all there is to this. Now I can hold down that hotkey trigger and instantly put my Mac to sleep. That's pretty nifty, but if I'm complaining about using the trackpad at an awkward angle, can you imagine how much I would whine if I had to type at an awkward angle? I'm certain I'd be insufferable. Step 2 was to add this Keyboard Maestro macro to a button on my Stream Deck. While you can add buttons to Stream Deck that trigger Keyboard Maestro macros, you can't do it directly. You have to install a plugin called KM Link. When you open the Stream Deck interface, there's a colorful icon in the upper right that takes you to the Elgato Marketplace on the web. Think of it as an app store for plugins, icons, screensavers, and more, both free and paid. Use your Elgato credentials to log into the Marketplace first. A quick search for KM Link, and you'll see a blue Get button to download the plugin to your computer. The only hard part is to keep track of whether it's KM Space Link or KM Link, all one word. They actually alternate in the way they document it, so good luck. I think it's KM Link, all one word, when it's in the Marketplace. All right, once downloaded, a simple double click will install KM Link into the Stream Deck. In the right sidebar of the Stream Deck software, you can now drag the KM Link icon onto an empty button just like you would do with any of the pre-built buttons. As soon as you drop it in, you'll be invited to add a title, assign a macro, and add an optional parameter. I haven't messed around much with parameters in Keyboard Maestro, but they're a way to add an argument to a macro, which helps with the reuse of macros without having to duplicate them. We don't need to pass any parameters to this very simple macro. To add the macro, you simply use the downward chevron that invites you to select a macro. If you have a lot of macros, it's helpful to remember that you can type the first couple of letters in this standard dropdown to jump to the right one. I typed SL quickly, and it selected my fancy single-action macro that I named Sleep. I could have typed the title Sleep into the title field, but I had a better idea. I asked one of the large language models to make me an icon with a blue background and white letters that said ZZZ, where each subsequent Z was slightly smaller. Took a couple of tries, but it made what I wanted in the end. The last step of this incredibly complex method was to click on the plus button to add an icon from a file and select my ZZZ icon. And to make sure you can follow along, I added a lot of detail here to what is a very quick set of steps. So let's review. Number 1, create a Keyboard Maestro macro with one action, put computer to sleep. Number 2, install the KM Link plugin from the Stream Deck Marketplace. Number 3, add a KM Link action to your Stream Deck interface. Number 4, set the macro to your sleep macro from Keyboard Maestro. And finally, number 5, add a cute icon. Or you could be boring and just title it Sleep. Now, every time I leave my computer, whether it's for the evening or just to go for a walk with Kepler the good boy, I simply tap my ZZZ button and my giant monitor stops slurping energy like a black hole. The best part is that I can actually reach around and hit that button without triggering the Hue sensor to turn on all the lights, because I can reach it from the side away from my desk. Anyway, I can do it and not wake up all the lights too. The bottom line is that automating something so simple and yet so repetitive and annoying is the classic scratching your own itch that Bart talks about in Programming by Stealth. I love my little sleep button so much. I talk often about the wonders of Patreon and how it helps you help me produce the shows. With Patreon, you pledge how much or how little you'd like to contribute per month. One of the great things about it is that you can stop at any time. By the way, I never look at the data that shows me when people stop. Why would I want to know that? You can lower your pledge when funds get tight, but you can also increase your pledge when you're feeling flush or getting even more value out of the shows. That's exactly what both Linda Goucher and Steve Davidson did this month. How cool are they? If you'd like to be cool like Linda and Steve, just head on over to podfeet.com/Patreon and pledge the amount that's right for you. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for Security Bits with Bart Busschots. I had to look at the title to see what we're talking about because it's a Saturday, not a Sunday.
Yeah, what can I say? We're getting close to the holidays. Things are all weird. My weekend's topsy-turvy. We're recording at the wrong time. Nothing makes sense. But hey, Always happy to talk to you.
We're here. Yeah, we briefly talked about postponing or something. I said, no, I'd miss talking to you. So we compromised.
Yes.
But we should kick right in.
Okay, well, we're going to start with some follow-ups on stuff we've talked about before. In various conversations, some of which you have heard, some of which you will hear, I have mentioned the word secret a lot in recent weeks because it's been on my mind for various reasons. And I keep on saying you shouldn't put secrets into your code because then you might commit it to Git, and that might be a problem. Well, someone did a wee scan of the GitLab, not GitHub, but same thing, right? Just Git. Um, for fairly major organizations, just to see what was in their public Git repositories, and they found 17,000 valid secrets. So, in other words, secrets to APIs and things, and buckets in Azure and so forth that work.
I wonder how they tested 17,000 secrets to determine them valid.
Yeah, 17,000 wouldn't be that many, right? If you script it to do one a second, should be done overnight.
Yeah, scripting. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not a theoretical thing. People are doing it, and
yeah. So if you're putting secrets into code, stop and think. Probably wrong. Probably a bad idea. Don't do that. And
more on that later.
Yes. Yourself and Adam had a good conversation about agentic browsers a week or two ago. I'm not sure when you recorded it.
Sure.
But yeah. It was a good conversation. I enjoyed listening.
Yeah.
And we've mentioned various vulnerabilities in the various agentic browsers. And my basic thing is this is like the very, very early days of the Internet of Things. It's a mess. Don't go there as normal people. Let everyone else blow themselves up and just wait a while and then jump in the pool. Just to prove my point, zero-click agentic agent browser attack can delete entire Google Drive using emails. So you send the person an email, which has what it's doing is it's actually hiding the malicious command inside. So you know the way a URL, you can have the # followed by an anchor within the page to jump straight to a bit of the page. Well, the agentic browser wasn't checking if they were valid. So that's where they hid the malicious prompt in a URL, #, and then the malicious prompt. And the agentic browser went, oh, okay, and followed it.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that seems fairly basic.
Yeah. The problem is
not super clever, ingenious workaround hack.
Well, I think the fundamental problem is that these agentic things don't know the difference between your prompt and the data they're processing, which means that if you sneak malicious things into the content, you always have a problem. And until there's a way for the AI to know this is your command, this is your input, but since they're just autocomplete machines, that's not easy to do. So I don't really know how you solve this, but it's not solved. So stay away.
Okay.
Yeah. Asking them to answer things is safe. Asking them to do things is don't go there.
Yeah.
Now, we don't have any deep dives this week, but we do have some action alerts. So first off, it's Google's turn for their monthly updates because they do them at the very start of the month. So their December updates have just come out. There are 107 fixes to Android, and 2 of them are being actively exploited in the wild as 0 days. So patchy, patchy, patch, and if you're on an Android phone that can't patch, get another phone.
So this is good.
Yeah.
We like these.
Yeah.
These are good things. No. And overall, Android's doing a lot better at having updates go back a lot further than they used to in time. So people are probably okay.
There are more brands doing better.
Yeah. Your $39 got it in a cereal box. Maybe not so much.
No, I don't think. I think we're a long way from that being. Although, actually, this is a nice segue because Google have been doing an interesting trick to make it less bad if your Android OS itself is out of date. A lot of Google's protections don't live in the operating system. They live in Google Play services. So any Google phone with the Google Play Store actually has like a secret version of half of the operating system branded as the store because Google can push those updates to every vendor's Android, even the vendors who don't push updates to Android itself. And that's where they now have a whole bunch of their antivirus stuff and their malware detection stuff is in Google Play services. And that proved very interesting when the developer of a once very popular and absolutely not malicious app lost control of his private key, and a malicious version of SmartTube was sent to people's Android TV sticks.
Oh, no.
So the current advice from Bleeping Computer is until the developer transparently discloses all points publicly in a detailed postmortem, users are recommended to stay on older, known to be safe builds, avoid logging in with premium accounts, and turn off auto updates, which is very weird. But right now, if you have a version before he lost his key, you're safe. So weld yourself there.
Okay. Okay.
And this is
That's
very
a
popular because there aren't many third party clients that let you not see the ads. So it's quite a popular app.
okay. That's unfortunate.
It is.
Seems
Asus
to be
user,
happening more and more.
yeah. Asus users, there are vulnerabilities both in routers, which is kind of what I expect, and in the software that Asus use to manage the various drivers and things for all of the many things they sell. So if you're running Windows and you have an app called My Asus, you need to update that app. And if you're running any Asus router on Asus WRT, which is Asus's version of OpenWRT, you need to
Oh,
update Asus WRT ASAP.
okay. So most people who would be running a WRT router firmware probably know that they're the ones responsible for keeping that up to date, hopefully.
You see, this I don't know because it's Asus WRT, so it's not like running your own open source one. You're actually running an OS
Oh.
from Asus on an Asus device. So
Oh, it
is
is?
that?
Oh.
I don't know.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna back us up and do
Okay.
another feedback and follow-ups
Oh,
'cause, I just noticed, you and I have not talked about this, but last time we talked to you about how, Google had started scanning Gmail and their other services to train its AI,
yes.
and I even made a handy dandy little diagram to show you exactly how to go in and turn this off, and it was Malwarebytes who first broke the story, and on, November 22nd, they posted an update to the article saying, and it starts with, "We've updated this article after realizing we contributed to a perfect storm of misunderstanding around a recent change in the wording and placement of Gmail's smart features. The settings themselves aren't new, but the way Google recently rewrote and surfaced them led a lot of people, including us, to believe Gmail content might be used to train Google's AI models and that users were being opted in automatically." Then it goes back in and it appears to not be the case. Google provided further documentation and pointed to it and said, "No, no, no, we aren't doing that." So they do scan your email, and they do opt you into that using these smart features, but they do things like spam filtering, categorization, writing suggestions. But that's how it normally works. So I still think, I mean, I chose to turn it off because they didn't ask me. Apple Intelligence, make fun of it as you will, but they do ask you, "Do you wanna turn this on?"
Yeah.
And you get to choose whether they're doing that, and we didn't get to choose with Google, so I turned it off for now. I'm not a big Gmail user, so it's not a big problem, but, yeah, if you're okay with that, know that they're not actually training their models with it, so that's good news.
Yeah. It's interesting because there's still a risk because the data is going to the AI for processing, so they could, by a bug, lose it. But it's
Mhm.
not being used to train AI, so it's not going to leak through the AI. So it's better. It's a lot better. Goes to show, though, that when you update the wording and you're a company as big as Google, you need to be very careful you're clear.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they didn't, and it was a rewording that caused the confusion.
Yeah.
So, but that's the good news.
It is.
They're not
Also,
training it on your AI.
this is a +1 for that news source, right? Because as far as I'm concerned, it is inevitable that human beings writing news will make mistakes. And there's two ways different outlets respond. You can ignore it, or you can proactively correct yourself. And anyone who proactively corrects themselves gets a little bonus tick from me.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's good. Malwarebytes, great service to us all.
Yeah, yeah. Right, worthy warnings then. The click fix attacks continue to evolve. To this day, there still exist browsers that could be forced into full screen mode by the web page you're on, which is inherently very dangerous because that means that corner to corner on your screen is in the control of someone else's code. And if you simulate an operating system, you can trick people into almost anything. Like this latest click fix attack, which puts up a fake Windows error message telling you Windows Update has failed and telling you to press a whole bunch of keystrokes and paste something into the command prompt to fix the Windows updates. It's all, of course, fake instructions until you follow them and then you actually hack yourself.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So this click fix thing, don't paste things. Pasting things is just a sign that they're up to something. Don't paste anything. Speaking of don't paste, there exist code beautifiers. So if you want to do a presentation and you want to have a beautiful slide with a gorgeous version of your code, you can go to these free websites and paste your code into them, and they're turning it into this beautiful picture and steal your code and any
Oh, no.
secrets in that code, like API keys and things. So we have discovered, the security researchers have discovered one particular or a few of these code beautifiers were leaking the secrets of banks, governments, and large technology companies.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah, so take a screenshot of VS Code or something, then go paste your company's code into a bloody free web service. Just a bad idea, right? Anything important, don't give it to someone else.
Yikes.
Yes. And finally, in the column of remember that AI is making it easy to fake pictures, the Federal Bureau of Investigation are warning of a new scam where people's social media photos are being used as the input to AI, which then alters them to make it look like they've been kidnapped, and then they send you fake ransom notes in the hope. So this is like a variation of the whole, hey, I'm calling from, or I'm texting from such and such a place. I've lost my passport. Please send money. Well, now it's got a picture saying, hey, I've been kidnapped, and it will look like the person.
So where are they getting the images from?
Social media.
Huh. Okay. Eesh.
Yeah.
Heck, they could probably animate it and have them say I've been kidnapped.
Probably, yeah. I'm kind of amazed it says that they're using photos rather than fake videos, but give them,
Yeah.
give them time. Just remember, it's easy to fake images.
I pretty much have started assuming everything's fake. It's really sad. Like I see some, cute video of a puppy or something, and I'm like, well, that's probably not real. Just I was at the park with my grandkids, and I walked past this bush. Maybe I already told you this. Anyway, I walked past this bush, and I heard a frog. And we don't live near water. It's
Right.
very rare to hear frogs, and so there was a little sludgy pond there, and some water runoff, and a frog had managed to get there. And so I was kind of standing there looking and listening, and this woman was next to me, and she noticed it. I said, "Is that a frog?" She goes, "That sounded like a frog." And I went, "It's probably AI." And she goes, "Oh yeah, you're probably right."
Oh, that's the fact that she picked up on the meme and laughed with you is what tells you that AI
Yeah.
has taken off.
Yeah, I think so. Right.
It's brilliant. Right. Notable news then. We did, before Twitter became X, we did a whole deep dive on different types of validation where you could tell what it really means when someone had a validation of some sort on different social media. And we went through how on Mastodon, the green tick just means that you own the domain and so forth. And we
Right.
said at the time that blue ticks on Twitter actually meant something. And then Elon took over, renamed it, and turned it into a hell. What is it? Ken Ray calls it the hell service or something. Anyway, and you could just buy a blue tick. And the EU have a thing called the Digital Services Act, which is the cousin of the Digital Markets Act. And the Digital Services Act puts a responsibility on companies to prevent reasonably, or to put reasonable measures to prevent scams and misinformation. And they are calling out X for three things, but the most media catching of them all is your validation is fake. This is misleading. This is not
You literally
validation.
write a check for it, right?
Yeah. Or fix it. Well, you're going to pay for the damage you've done. Now fix it, or you're going
No,
to
I'm
keep
sorry.
paying.
You write a check to get a blue check.
That is, yes. And part of me thinks
Sorry,
Elon is
I
going to
used
write a check.
archaic terminology. Checks used to be these pieces of paper, Bart, that people would write money numbers on, and then it would go to the bank, and money would come out. It was an
I
old-fashioned
could
thing. Sorry.
reach not very far from here and pull out my checkbook because for my business account, I continue to have checkbooks for a very long time.
Let's see. Mine's right here. So this is kind of interesting because one of the interesting things that happened and kind of came to light about the blue checks is that political accounts that were supposedly affiliated with specific parties, people posting very enthusiastically, let's say, for a particular political party, turned out they weren't in the U.S. at all. There was, I don't know how many it was, whether it was a huge number, but it was enough to, light the internet on fire. But they were, political party A saying great things about a political party, and it turns out they were in India or they were in Budapest or wherever. So it was, that was
rage
part of this
farming.
verified thing. They were verified. They had blue checks.
Yeah, which means nothing. Yeah. So that's called
Yeah.
rage farming because basically it drives views, which drive ads, which bring in money. So you can be a creator above a certain size and you get a cut of the ads. And so there are now basically call centers full of young people in poorer countries around the world paid to make outrage, to make ads, to make money for the person who's farming them. And then they get a cut. So they get a cut of the ad revenue to X. It's an
It's
industry.
amazing.
Rage as a produce.
Rage as a service.
Rage as a service, yeah.
So this is kind of interesting that, so you said the Digital Services Act requires some sort of measures to combat misinformation. But at the same time, I know Facebook, not that long ago, just shut down their, we're not going to do that anymore.
Well,
They're
they changed their moderation policies, but they didn't quite say they wouldn't do it at all. And they have different rules in the US and the EU.
Okay.
So, yeah, the other two things that X are in trouble for is for not having transparency on ads. Because you're supposed to, if you have a political ad or something, you're supposed to be able to find out who paid for it. Like that is transparency in advertising, and you're supposed to do that. I mean, that's true on television in the US. How often have you heard the
Sure.
phrase, I'm so-and-so and I support this message?
Right.
And the other one is that you're supposed to, under the Digital Services Act, make it possible for researchers to scrape public content so they can analyze it and do research about your platform. How is this public square being used? But of course, X has blocked all scraping. And they have not provided a mechanism for research. They've just gone, just pay us for the API access. It's like, well, no, we can't do that. We can't afford, it costs a fortune.
Okay.
So they're the three things.
And so we just don't want to.
Yeah, which is the Elon way. So anyway, we shall see how it all pans out.
Okay.
Right, I do believe from here on in, it's good news all the way. So
Oh,
first
goody.
bit of good news, it's just a nice tweak. So Google a few months ago announced a feature where they would add extra protections in Android when you were in a known banking app. And it was initially confined to banky banks, right? Very, very traditional banks like Bank of America and, someone who has a banking license. And it would do very clever things like if you had a banking app open and you were doing a screen share, it would warn you, say, hey, this is the kind of thing scammers do. Are you sure? And, little
Yeah.
clever things.
So this is in Android. It would
Yes.
tell you if you were showing that.
Yeah. And they've now expanded
Interesting.
that to include bank-like apps. So it's specifically
The
here.
Venmos and PayPals and
Yeah,
such.
those kind of things. In this case, the specific two who are going first are two US apps that something called Chase Cash, and there's something
Hmm.
to do with cryptocurrency are the first two non-bank
Okay.
apps to get this protection. But I imagine this is going to just rolling out, presumably by
Yeah.
popularity.
I hope iOS copies that.
Yeah. That was very clever. Yeah, and Cupertino, turn on your photocopiers.
Exactly.
Now, there is they're a major cybersecurity company. They're called Grey Noise, and they sell their services to large organizations, and they do very useful things. But as part of doing their cybersecurity work, they have a lot of visibility of the malicious traffic on the internet, and they keep track of which IP addresses are being co-opted into botnets. So there's a lot of residential IP addresses being targeted because when you do geo-blocking and stuff, you can't really block out residential ISPs because then you cut off your actual audience. So when you have
Wait,
people,
geo-blocking of who's doing the geo-blocking?
there's a lot
What
of
is that?
services trying to not let you use a VPN because you might be coming in from another country and stuff. But if you've managed to route your traffic from somewhere around the world through a hacked router somewhere and end up on a Comcast ISP, they can't really do anything but assume you are an American because you're on an American
Okay.
residential IP. And if you're doing
Okay.
a denial of service, if you're coming from a data center or something, you're easy to block. But if you're coming from residential ISPs, you're now killing your customers to protect your customers. And so baddies love residential IPs. And they get there by recruiting devices into botnets. So it could be your router you forgot to patch. It could be a camera somewhere on your network you completely forgot about that got hacked 10 years ago that's been phoning home into the botnet. It could be your printer, right? God only knows what they could be.
Yeah, the old printers.
Yeah.
We don't think of those as IoT devices, but Dave Hamilton points it out all the time. Going, remember, that's an IoT device.
Yeah. Someone in work told me recently that they were in a place where one got hacked and it actually printed out, I have just completely taken over your printer. I happen to be a good guy. You need to apply this patch very quickly, or I could have taken everything from your network. Have a nice day.
Wow.
And just spat out of the printer. It's like, ah!
And printers also, at least industrial sized printers in businesses, often have hard drives in them with data.
Yeah, because you send your file to the printer buffers it. Well, it's storing it. And then
Yeah.
it prints it out. So you send a whole Word file of 500 pages of a contract, your computer sends it all and you get on with things. And then an hour later, when you're getting your cup of coffee, you go pick up your pages. But they were sitting in the printer's brain.
Right, right.
So any malware could have sent them anywhere. And if you're a large corporation with contracts or God knows what, it's terrifying. Anyway, so Grey Noise aren't going to let you use all of their services for free, but they have this database and they know about residential IP addresses that are compromised. So now they're just letting you check, am I one of them? They just have a web page that looks at the IP address you're coming from and tells you whether or not you're on the naughty step, whether or not something somewhere in your house has been hacked and recruited into a botnet. Hopefully, when you click this link in the show notes, you get a very pleasing green tick box. I did, I'm
So
happy to say.
the first, yeah, it was funny. Bart sent me this earlier and he says, click here. I want to know if it comes back green. And then he said, I had to tell you that because I knew you would click it while we were talking. So it's like, you know me so well.
Yeah.
Luckily, I did get a green checkbox. So it's check.labs.graynoise.io. It's the first link.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a really nice service for what's otherwise a very enterprisey company selling products none of us could afford. They're like, why don't we just do something nice? They remind me a bit, Grey Noise remind me a little bit of Cloudflare. They sell very expensive products to people with a lot of money, and they just make nice things available for regular folk. It's kind of, they're
That's
just
awesome.
nice netizens.
Oh, speaking of Cloudflare, I was listening to the Accidental Tech podcast this week, and they talked a little bit about the Cloudflare kerfuffle that we had a couple of weeks ago, and I loved it. John Syracuse is probably the most serious of the three gentlemen, and he's very studious about things and really digs into the technology and everything. And he goes, my first thought was, I could see totally how that failure could have happened. I've worked in a big corporation and worked with databases, and I could understand exactly how that failure could happen. My second thought was, man, I really got to get onto Cloudflare. I've been meaning to do that for a long time. And so he moved his web server over to Cloudflare because this reminded him of it. And that was part of the point you were making is this was, sure, it was a mistake and it was really unfortunate, but Cloudflare is still awesome.
That just proves the old, the old adage, there's no such thing as bad publicity. It's like, Cloudflare is down, ooga, ooga. Ooh, I should change to Cloudflare.
He's real happy about it, so.
It's great.
I like it. So one thing you did point out in your notes here is Bleeping Computer's title of the article that you point us to says, Grey Noise launches free scanner to check if you're part of a botnet. And your next bullet says, it's not a scanner.
No.
It just checks the database against your IP address. It's not scanning your house or anything like that or pinging you in some way to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool service.
It is. And then finally, just two interesting little updates from a Swiss company I am becoming ever more fond of called Proton. They are a company that believe that people will pay for privacy and that they would, rather than getting a free service with ads, why don't you pay us and we'll give you proper privacy? And Proton Mail was their first product, and lots of people adore Proton Mail. And I love their AI chatbot, Lumo. And they recently did a password manager. And in the episode of TTT that will arrive in the near future, Taming the Terminal, we discussed that a lot of terminals, not a lot of terminals, Jesus, a lot of password managers have terminal apps that match them. So that if you don't want to write your passwords into your shell scripts or into your terminal commands, you can actually get them out of 1Password from the terminal using the OP command for 1Password. And I said, and lots of different managers have them. And Proton Pass didn't have one until 3 days after we recorded when they released a CLI for Proton Pass. So there is now
I like it.
terminal command.
Even though we already recorded that episode, you could go change the notes. You could go add that in.
I could, couldn't I? If there's a logical place.
Yeah.
Although I
It's
think
not published yet.
I don't think we said it didn't have it. We just only talked about 1Password because that's what I could test.
Right. But you could throw it in and just say, after we recorded.
Yeah, it might do.
Yeah, that is very cool.
It is.
I think Proton Mail doesn't do iCloud Mail, which is where that kind of thing always breaks down for me. If it doesn't do iCloud, I can't play.
Well, but it wouldn't do iCloud because it's an alternative to iCloud. It's like saying Gmail doesn't do iCloud. So they are your mail server.
Oh, never mind. I thought it was a client.
No, so it's an alternative to Office 365 or Gmail or iCloud.
Or iCloud. Okay. Then I take that 100% back. That's interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
And you could put your own domain on it. You don't have to be at Proton. Just like you don't have to be at Gmail. You can have your own domain, go to Google services. And then...
But I bet I couldn't use Apple Mail. Anyway, go ahead.
And then they have had a nascent Office suite, which is kind of hard to call it a suite when they only had a word processor. Is that a suite
Mhm.
of one app? Anyway, it has a partner now. There is now an end-to-end encrypted version of basically Google Sheets. So a collaboration app on the web where you can work together, but with end-to-end encryption. So the only thing they have is the encrypted version safely synchronized through their cloud, but the people on the two ends can see the data and work together like an encrypted chat client, but instead of it being a chat, it's a shared spreadsheet.
You know that the instant I read this, I went and downloaded it,
Of course you
or
did.
went to download it, of course, because you had me at Sheets, at Spreadsheet. But unfortunately, it's rolling out, so it's
Ah,
not available to me yet, and I was sad. But I did take the opportunity finally to take a look at their, word clone, whatever you want to call it, and I did some experiments in there to see how much Markdown I could get away with, and
ooh.
a fair number of things worked. I was able to use hash marks for headings, write one dot and it would, make the numbered list, and bullets would continue to list, which a lot of things do. It didn't accept tables, but it did do italics and bold and underline with the symbols for Markdown. So that was kind of nice. I don't know whether you're going to export it as that or save it as that, but anyway, I was able to do a little bit. So that was cool.
Well,
It
even
was very
just being
pretty.
able to type that way, because I'm now at the point where I
Yeah.
type into Apple Mail, star da 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 star, and then I go, why does that look wrong? Oh, sugar. Command
Yep.
I for italics. Ugh.
Oh, I wish Apple would get on the stick there.
Yeah, even Outlook, bloody Outlook, one of the apps that I hate more than anything else in the universe. In Outlook, if I say one dot, I get a numbered list. In Mail
Mhm.
app, if I do one dot, I get a one dot.
So tedious,
So
so
tedious.
tedious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a top tip. Intego are another one of these companies who do really great work for the community despite also selling things, right? They are a for-profit software company and they sell Mac antivirus and actually not just antivirus, Mac security products, VPN, firewall, the full suite. And they have this amazing writing team who do technical writing for humans. I presume they do all the
Mm.
documentation and all that kind of stuff 99% of the time. But every few weeks, a post appears on their blog. And they're always really well written. And the amazing thing is, some of them are long and detailed. They could be like, imagine 20 physical pages, and there might be 3 paragraphs of an ad in those 20 pages. Like, it's the
Oh, wow.
tiniest
That's
little
pretty
bit
good.
of upsell. It's amazing. They've done it again.
I mean, I hope they've got the belly fat ad and the toenail fungus ad there,
No,
right?
well,
I mean, I'm really not happy if I don't see those, you
I'm
know?
pretty sure they don't. Now, I read on an RSS reader and they put full text in the RSS feed, so I see nothing other than the text, which is
Right.
amazing. But it's on their own website, so their corporate website wouldn't have belly fat ads and that kind of thing. So it's probably a pleasant read on a web browser.
Right.
Anyway, they have cybersecurity best practices, it's essential tips for modern Mac security. I read through it. It's full of really good advice, great explanations. What does Apple do out of the box? What does Apple not do? Where are the edge cases? What should you turn on that's off by default? What should you avoid? It's just really good advice.
Oh.
And a tiny little bit saying, but if you want more protection, why don't you buy our cool product? Which is fine, They really put it into
Yeah,
context.
this is in depth, but yeah, you're right. Do I see any ads? I don't think I see any ads.
No, because it's a corporate website, right? It's
Popular
on
stories, follow
intego.com.
Inigo, recommended articles, subscribe. Ah, even Macs need antivirus software. Pop-up window is stopping me from doing anything, but a quick X and I'm back in business.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's not bad.
it's not
No
bad.
animated belly fat ad.
Yeah, like I say, I'm really fond of Intego, and
Yeah,
they write they're obviously they're people who write their manuals and stuff because they're really good technical writers, very human friendly. Always fun read.
good, good, good.
Well, I
Nice.
say fun, a good read. I'm reminded of Scotty, going on holidays. Oh, technical manuals. I have these 20 technical manuals to read. I think that's me.
Exactly. That's why people always give me garbage when I, bring my Mac on vacation. They're like, Allison, you need to relax and have fun. Yeah,
Yes.
that's why I'm bringing my Mac with me. Duh.
Oh, it's the nicest thing
I love
about
it
being
when people
married to a
tell you how
geek.
to have fun. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
The two of us are like, will we bring 2 laptops or 1 laptop? Why do you bring the laptop and I'll bring the iPad, and then we have one of each,
Ours was my favorite one was when we went to Peru to hike Machu Picchu, and the question was whether to bring our new laptops or our old laptops. And luckily, Steve chose his old laptop, and that's when he had it stolen. So yeah.
Good call. Yeah. Now, I have
Anyway,
a palate cleanser of the wholesome kind rather than the light-hearted kind. So
yeah.
we all know that Randall Munro is a skilled visual storyteller, and a lot of the time it's just fun nerd humor. But
For those who don't know, that the author of XKCD, the comic.
indeed, and also a couple of really fun books.
Yeah.
But sometimes he strays away from tech into life, because real life happens, and sometimes that inspires him, and some of them are really sweet. And this one is called 15 Years. It's long. I'm not going to spoil it. But basically, it is a truly heartwarming story that ends with a line that will stay with me forever. Because basically, he's married to someone who had cancer and are now 15 years free of their cancer, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
And
I cried.
yeah, I actually am not going to spoil it anymore. It's really
Nope.
nice. It's crying in the good way. It was one of the sweetest things
Yeah.
I have read. And the last line about just growing old
Those
together.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so good. Yeah, no, I haven't really spoiled it though, because I think it's really funny how we get there. It's so
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. I really like that one. Mine is more of the silly nature. So Alan Dye was the head of what? Design. He's responsible for Liquid Glass in Apple OS's 26. And somebody posted this on Threads, and I copied it because Threads going to Mastodon doesn't work. So I copied it. And the title of this said, "To commemorate Alan Dye moving from Apple to Meta, here's one of his best quotes." And it's a screenshot, and it shows the rainbow arches of Apple Park, and then in the center of the screen is the bright sun shining through some trees, and overlaid over it is a Liquid Glass quote from Alan Dye, and you got to see it to enjoy it fully. But it says, "Design is not just what it looks." And you can't read the rest of it because the Liquid Glass is clear with white text on top of this glowing sun through the behind. You see the beginning of a couple more sentences, but anyway, it's done very well. I enjoyed it. So I posted on Mastodon so you could see a link no matter what your persuasion of social media is. You can always read Mastodon.
Excellent. Did you know that he himself put that quote of Steve Jobs's onto his X account as his sort of parting blow towards Apple? It's a Steve Jobs
So
quote.
I thought so, but I can't tell what the quote is. So, but did he sign his own name to a Steve Jobs quote?
No. He quoted Steve Jobs in a sort of a pompous, self-aggrandizing way to mark his
Right.
moving to Meta. And that's why that quote of all quotes is being pulled up. He also put that on a slide at WWDC when unveiling Liquid Glass.
And well, I don't know what the quote says. It's a design is not just what it looks.
Like,
Design
it's
is
how it works.
how it works, and it didn't, and it doesn't.
It,
So much fun.
yeah. Anyway, I don't think I've ever seen someone voluntarily leaving a company and the media briefly going, "Oh my God, Apple have lost a major. Oh, thank goodness."
Back to Accidental Tech Podcast is Marco Arment has just reamed Alan Dye for his design decisions for a long time, and especially with Liquid Glass, and especially when he talks about that quote, and he listening to him talk on ATP this week after Al and I left, he said, congratulations to everyone across the board. Congratulations to Al and I. Probably got a lot of money. Yay. Congratulations. Good luck, Mark Zuckerberg, with what you've just done. And yay for Apple and yay for us.
The snarkiest thing I've heard in ages was just a one-liner. The IQ of both companies has gone up.
Oh, that is an interesting one.
Anyway, on that note, definitely read the XKCD and remember to stay patched so you stay secure.
Well, that's going to wind us up for this week. Did you know you can email me at allison@podfeet.com anytime you like? I actually write back to just about everybody. If you have a question or suggestion, just send it on over. Remember, everything good starts with podfeet.com. Want to follow me on Mastodon? podfeet.com/Mastodon. Want to listen to the podcast on YouTube? podfeet.com/YouTube. Want to join the conversation? You can join our Slack community at podfeet.com/Slack. Talk to me and all the other lovely NoSilicastaways. You can support the show at podfeet.com/Patreon, like Linda and Steve, or with a one-time donation at podfeet.com/donate, where you can use Apple Pay or any credit card. Or if you like PayPal, we've got that too. Where do you think it is? podfeet.com/PayPal. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, head on over to podfeet.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic NoSilicastaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed.